Russia could show its disapproval by saying, hey, we're just not going to show up.
Nick, just a final one from me about the environment down in Washington, D.C. at the moment. I just had a comment from Dan Tannenbaum over at Oliver Wyman, who pointed out just the lack of leaks around this administration. You led with some reporting this morning, but we're not talking about days ahead of time. We're talking about hours now, Nick. Just how tightly ran is that ship down in Washington?
Well, I'm not so sure about that. We reported last week that these sanctions would be coming this week. So we are, on sanctions stuff, I think, I'm going to toot our own horn. Bloomberg has absolutely been ahead of the pack on these stories. There is definitely a tighter ship in terms of leaks on internal drama, the palace intrigue, things like that. So you're really not seeing any of that. Whether it's almost certain that infighting is starting to happen. Everybody was singing from the same songbook, but they are really you're starting to see a few of the turf wars, but certainly none of the drama histrionics that you saw under the Trump administration that even merited a lot of those leaks. But also there is a certain amount of fear because the administration, like the Obama administration, has said it's really going to get tough on leakers and really punish anyone who tries to do that. So we are seeing a lot fewer leaks on a lot of the internal politics within the administration.
But you're doing your job and doing it well, Nick. Don't worry about that. It's going to catch you up. Nick Williams of Bloomberg, taking a bit of a dig at reporters down in Washington, Tom, on other beats maybe, away from sanctions. Tremendous reporting from the team down in D.C.
For Bloomberg Radio, a chart that I've used with the wonderful Marshall Goldman years ago on Mr. Putin and on Russia, John. This goes back to the collapse of the Soviet Union. It is the mass devaluation of the Russian ruble as compared to the dollar. John, from 1 to 1 to 1 to 77. That's a log chart. That's maybe the ugliest chart on the system in terms of wealth destruction.
It is not pretty, is it? Coming up on this program, retail sales in America, which we haven't discussed for what feels like the best part of an hour. It comes up next with Lou Alexander, Nomura Securities chief, U.S. economist. We're looking for a big one at Bloomberg Economics, something close to 10%. From New York, for our audience worldwide, heard on radio, seen on TV, this is Bloomberg Surveillance. York City for our audience worldwide. Good morning to you all. Alongside Tom Keene and Lisa Abramowitz, I'm Jonathan Ferro. Retail sales in America just moments away. Going into that, futures with a nice lift on the S&P 500, up by 24 points. We advance by 5/6 The wow from Tom Keene is for claims. So let's do claims first, and I'll work through the data, Tom. Give me a second.
Wow.
A good downside surprise on claims, 576,000. The median estimate 700K. And there is your punchy number on retail sales. Month on month, 9.8%. I stress month on month, 9.8%. The median estimate, 5.8%. The likes of Carl Riccadonna at Bloomberg Economics almost on the money here, looking for a 10% pop for March retail sales. Had Bank of America in and around 11.5%. It's a big number and a huge upside surprise as well. If you strip out auto and gas, let's go to retail sales, ex-auto and gas. 6.4% was the estimate. 8.2% is the number. So 8.2% stripping out auto and gas. The headline number month on month, 9.8%. The control group, important input to GDP here in America, Tom. Retail sales control group, 6.9%. Just a slight downside surprise there. 7.2% the median estimate. But that is a boom number. So 2 data points here to look at. A really nice retail sales print, 1, and the right kind of move, lower on initial jobless claims, Tom. Jobless claims down to 576 from a revised 769.
You know, we make jokes about it, John, wow, and all that, and that's the showbiz part of it, but this is the healing of a nation, and what I notice is even with a revision on initial jobless claims, that is terrific good news on getting the unemployment rate down to somewhere in the vicinity of February last normal. And on retail sales, I mean, I'm sorry, these are good numbers with constructive revisions as well.
They are good numbers, but is it a market that was positioned for it? So let's run through this market. Equity futures still elevated, up 6/7% on the S&P 500, advancing 27 points. But take a look at the bond market. Yields, 160. 160, down 3 basis points now on the session. We're seeing this with retail sales. We saw it earlier the week with CPI as well. CPI was hotter than expected, and on the day, treasuries were bid and yields were lower. And we're seeing it right now, Tom. Yields down by 3 basis points on 10s, 160, 7% on the control group, 6.9% to be precise, slightly below projections, estimates. The headline number, 9.8%, huge upside surprise. These are tremendous numbers, but we were gearing up for these tremendous numbers for the best part of 6 months, ever since we got that headline on the vaccine front in early November last year.
Well, John, I want you to bring in Ira, but you know what I'm going to notice, John, is the real yield at a negative 0.75. I'm not even sure you can do the show. Friday, see that, folks, 1 p.m. I don't even know if you can do the show with a real yield coming to a greater negative number as we've seen the last number of days.
The nominal yields down by 4 basis points on 30s to 227 as well. Let's turn to Ira Jersey of Bloomberg Intelligence, our rate strategist here at Bloomberg. Just your first reaction, Ira, please.
Yeah, I think the market was ready for this kind of whisper number, this 10%-ish number that you noted, John, that Carl Riccadonna and our Bloomberg Economics team almost nailed. So the market is actually rallying a little bit in terms of rates, and I think maybe this is as good as it can get, because remember, this is a lot of fiscal stimulus is baked into these numbers. So next month's not going to be quite as good, and the month after will be even slower. So I think the big question for the rates market is how sustainable is this kind of recovery?
Ira, with the news flow this morning, we're thrilled to have you on, and I've got to rip up the script here as the Secretary of State now comments on these new Russian sanctions. Ira, you've worked for Major Wall Street. What's it